Greetings once again, Major Taylor Trail Keepers community. Thank you so much for tuning in with us again this month. I'm really excited about this month's topic because we're talking about something that's called the Southside Critical Mass. And I know you're like, well, some of you know exactly what it is because you've been there, done that, and some of you are like, what is this? So let me first introduce our two experts and my guests. I have Dannielle McKinnie, who is an avid biker and what's called a JB or James Brown roller skater. She's participated in several bike groups since 2012. She has been a volunteer for Southside Critical Mass since its inception in 2014. She's a member of Major Taylor Cycling Club Chicago and was on the board for Active Trans. Now, through Southside Critical Mass, she loves sharing the beauty of her side of town, increasing the fitness of its inhabitants, and showcasing businesses in the area. So let's welcome Dannielle McKinnie. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dannielle. And before we get into conversations, on this side, I've got Ojie Murchison. Now, he has been in the cycling community since he was a kid. He started a bike club at the age of 16 in his basement, which consisted of just a few neighborhood kids. They would fix bikes and ride through the lakefront and through the different neighborhoods. Now, as an adult, he did bike marshaling with various groups like the Late Ride. Then he used to ride with Red, Bike, and Green, which is an African-American cycling group, and is now a member of Major Taylor Cycling Club Chicago. Ojie devotes time and effort to Southside Critical Mass. He's also an avid golfer, fisherman, snowboarder, and a JB roller skater. And Ojie, I'm tired just listening to all the different things that you do in your spare time. So thank you again for joining us today on our show. And so I want to dive. I know we have several things around the Southside Critical Mass that we want to cover, but I first want to just kind of understand what is Southside Critical Mass? Is it a movement, a bike ride? What is it? And just which one of you can start and just help me understand what exactly is Southside Critical Mass?
So Southside Critical Mass is a group ride that we do once a month on First Fridays. We meet at 55th and Kimbark, April through November at 5:45 p.m. And then we're rolling at 6:15. And this is a ride that's appropriate for all ages. You just need a bike and just come on out and have a good time. It's a social ride where you get to know people of diverse backgrounds and just share that love of biking and seeing the city and seeing, things you might not ordinarily see on a bike ride. So just different areas, and we get a lot of love from people seeing us ride through the neighborhoods and joy. So we like to spread that joy by saying Happy Friday.
Yes, I remember because I've done like maybe one or two of the rides, and I remember having fun hollering Happy Friday, Happy Friday. So are you saying it starts at the same place, but it goes different paths?
Yes, so we explore the city on two wheels. So we're going around to different areas, and there's a route, and people are welcome to submit various routes and things that they want to showcase in the city. It also helps us by deflecting a lot of the negative things that you see on TV, in the news about the South Side. So that's one of the very important factors, is to expose people to see that there are various gems in the city. And once we expose them to those places, they come back to them. They frequent those restaurants. They're like, this restaurant has, the good ribs, or they have this, or they have this artwork, or I saw the golden lady statue, or the Great Migration statue, and those different things that people might not be exposed to. So we like to open their eyes to that and show that there's a lot of beauty on the South Side.
Yeah, I remember the one ride. I didn't do the ride. I was a marshal for it in my car. And the meetup spot was at Harold's Chicken. Now, I've had Harold's Chickens before, but I had never been to that location. And then I remember... Downtown, yeah. And then I remember another one where it was, I think this was the Hadia Pendleton Right, and we went to her family's restaurant. I had never been there before.
Yes.
So does the ride always, and I actually know the answer to this question, but I need you guys to talk about it. Does the ride, like, is there a strategy behind, like, how you determine, because each month I'm assuming there's a different route, correct?
Yes.
Is there like a strategy behind deciding and determining, well, what businesses are we going to frequent and what routes are we going to go?
So I can speak to that.
Okay.
So there's not a strategy behind it. However, as Dannielle said, anyone can create a route or create a map. And we like to stay within the community on the south side of Chicago. And what we like to do is, I want to speak first to the Mass. What is Southside Critical Mass? The word Mass allows us to come together. We ride more safe in a group. And I'm talking about visibility. You know, when you're on these streets and there are cars, there's pedestrians, you know, you want to talk about safety.
Right.
So it's not mandatory to wear a helmet. It's not a requirement to wear a helmet, but we definitely suggest wearing a helmet when you're on these rides. So while we're out there and we're in mass form, we're having a good time, we're talking, conversating, and along the way, like Dannielle said, you see different things, right? While you see those things, you may say, hey, we may want to come back to this restaurant.
Okay,
we may come back to this place.
Yeah.
And that allows us to, the next month, decide, hey, this is what we want to do.
Okay. So now let me take us back a little bit further.
Okay.
Southside Critical Mass. I have heard the term critical mass. As a matter of fact, when I used to work, before I retired, and I used to work at the Thompson Center, I know that there used to be a really huge bike ride that would start right outside of our building, the Thompson Center, that was called the Critical Mass. Is there any connection between that big bike ride that would happen I think that was also every first Friday, I think. It was the last Friday of the month. I just remember certain Fridays I couldn't hardly get out. I had to get out of my office before all the bikers came. Is there any connection between that ride that I know was referred to as Critical Mass, which I think is worldwide, I'm not sure.
Yes.
And to what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So
Tell me about it.
we would always ride the downtown mass. It's called Critical Mass. And while we would ride,
so you was out there one of those Fridays keeping me from getting to my
first Friday, absolutely.
Okay.
We ride it in the mass.
Okay.
And it's a moderate pace ride.
Okay.
It's a moderate pace ride. It's not a fast
Hold on,
ride.
time out. How do you define moderate pace? Remember, we got viewers that don't. So we got some viewers that maybe hasn't ridden a bike. What do you define that?
So you have fast rides. Something like a Major Taylor ride, it would be considered a faster ride. And then you have a club that was called Slow Roll Chicago. They were a slower ride through the neighborhoods of Chicago. And then you had something like Southside Critical Mass. We were kind of in between those rides. So we had members from Major Taylor, we had members from Slow Roll. So we rolled somewhere in the middle at Southside Critical Mass. So the downtown mass, there's adults, there's grandmas, grandpas, children, you name it. And so we would join that ride. The ride was downtown, and parking, you know, you got to get there on time. If you're not there on time, you have to catch up with them. It became difficult for me to get there on time from time to time. So ultimately, the conversation came up, we need to do something like this on the south side of Chicago, because that is an excellent ride downtown. And what we learned, they ride through their neighborhoods and they say Happy Friday to everybody they pass. It was a great idea to bring that to the south side of Chicago, riding through our neighborhoods and saying Happy Friday to everybody we pass. Can you imagine?
Oh, I've done it. I've done it before. I mean, I've seen it's almost like you're celebrities.
Yeah.
But so did that ride that I'll just say the one that used to make me have to hurry up and get out of work.
Yes.
Did that ride not go through, because you said they would go through their communities, did that ride not go through our Southside communities?
So the ride will go to the south side, maybe not as often. They concentrate a lot on the north, downtown, west, and they would come to the south sides. Maybe not as much, but they will, come travel to the south sides of Chicago.
Okay. I never saw them in my neighborhood.
Well, that's why we're here
Yeah.
at Southside Critical Mass.
Okay.
And we will ride through your Southside neighborhood, and we will have fun, and we will say Happy Friday
Okay.
to everybody we pass on those
Okay.
roads.
Okay. So
Take the Major Taylor Trail.
and take the Major Taylor Trail. Hello.
Taylor
Yes.
Trail.
Isn't there always at least one ride every year that what part of the route goes on the Major Taylor Trail?
Wild Blossom Meadery.
Wow, yes,
and
yes.
we've gone to through Roseland and other areas through that trail. and
Yes.
have supported those businesses.
Thank you. We're always trying to promote activity on the trail. So now, so you shared with me the critical mass that. Does that ride still happen downtown? Is that still going every last
Yes.
Friday? Okay. So how did the Southside Critical Mass then get started? You kind of alluded to it a little bit when you had just said, your spirit said, wouldn't that be great if we had that? But at some point, someone had to organize and decide we're going to put it out there. So one of you tell me about its origins.
Right there with you. He's sitting right
Okay,
there
well,
with
give me the story. Give me the backstory. This is recorded, and this will be part of history. We need the backstory. How did the Southside Critical Mass get started?
So, from my memory, there was a post on Facebook. I don't remember who put it up there, but there was conversation back and forth about bringing more cycling to our community. And it was just a great idea. There was an influx of conversations about it. And it was just this epiphany. Hey, how about we bring to the south side of Chicago the same concept that they do on the north side.
Okay.
And during that same time, as I mentioned before, there was a group that was led by a gentleman named Ojie
Oh, yeah.
and Jamal. They were rolling out Slow Roll somewhere around the same time. So we already had a few groups. Dannielle mentioned Red, Bike, and Green, or you mentioned it. And so as Red, Bike, and Green was going out, there was a need for other cycling clubs in our community. Major Taylor was there. There was a few others that was there, but the more the merrier.
Yeah.
So from a Facebook post came an idea, and several people got together and said, okay, let's make this happen. And we didn't start out in Nichols Park.
I remember.
We started out on 85th and King Drive.
Yes, I remember.
Park.
Yes,
At
yes.
Cole Park.
That's one of the rides that I came to.
And Cole Park was really, really nice. That's where we started, but we also felt like we needed more of a cycling community. So we left Cole Park and we moved to Nichols Park in Hyde Park because there's more of a cycling community in that area.
In the Hyde Park area.
In the Hyde Park area,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So it has worked for us. We can manage our rides from that area. The park is large enough for us to come. And we have a diverse group of people that ride with us. They come from the north side, south side, all over the city of Chicago.
Yeah, and I was just with the League of American Bicyclists in D.C. Lobbying for safer streets for cycling, and we had a lot of really rich conversations. But one of the ongoing issues and concerns that comes up is that, in our predominantly African American, Black and Brown communities, the culture, the mindset of cycling needs to change at the same time that I'm stomping down on Capitol Hill for better, safer cycling streets for cycling and pedestrian passages. We know that we need to change the culture, and in my opinion, the best way to change the culture is for our kids and our community to see cyclists riding their bikes and having fun. And that's part of why it was so important to me to have have this show segment where you get to talk about exactly
Appreciate it.
what you.
Thank you.
It really is, because I don't think our I'm also a lifetime member of the Major Church Cycling Club. They do a lot of their rides because they ride faster out in the outskirts or on the lakefront. I don't know if they. I'm not as well versed on their current calendar, but I don't know if they actually have any rides that literally go through the communities of the South Side of Chicago. I can't, other than, I do know, I think they periodically will have rides on their calendar that go on the trail. So what you do is so important to changing the culture and the community. They all say build it and they will come. So your work, you'll be surprised. Right now, this is just Dannielle and Ojie. 20, 30 years from now, you guys will probably be, champions of the history of how cycling evolved in the city of Chicago. So now, let's get to some fun stuff. I think we covered most of the nuts and bolts of what you do. It's the first Friday of every month at 5:45 at Nichols Park.
55th and Kenbark, the South End.
South End of 55th and Kenbark. So now let's talk about some of the fun things. I need each of you to answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know one of the coolest things you have ever seen or done on a ride. Who wants to go first? Me. Okay, go ahead. All right.
So,
Not on a ride, on a Southside Critical Mass
Southside
ride.
Critical Mass ride.
Okay.
One of my best memories and things that we've done on a ride was when we did a ride and we rode near St. Sabina, and they were having a peace march out there.
Oh.
And on the way back from the ride, we rode through an area, and there's the lagoon. There's Auburn Park Lagoon, and there are a lot of little homes in there. It's a little winding road and some bridges, and it's really beautiful. It's like an oasis in the city. I didn't know it existed, and I grew up probably 10 minutes from there.
Oh, wow.
And it was just so beautiful. It didn't even seem like part of the city. And there were kids outside jumping rope, and we ride through on our bikes, and we got the lights going and music going and everything. People are waving at us, and kids are jumping rope, and we jump off our bikes, guys included, and we start jumping rope with the kids.
I wish somebody could have filmed that.
It was just such a wonderful time, because it showed we're all connected. You know. It was,
and you're not just riding through the community; you're a part of the community. Doing those things makes such a difference.
Yes.
I think one of the other things that's so powerful with what you all do every month is that there's always a food stop. There's always, because I'm not embarrassed. I don't ride the Southside Critical Mass because I'm afraid. I have phobias of night riding, but I will meet them up at the food stop every month. So we did forget a business part. Every month there is a food stop, right, somewhere.
It's not mandatory, but
okay.
we do find some places. Absolutely.
No, it's not mandatory, but there's always a food stop where the restaurateur knows that we're coming, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I meet y'all there sometimes.
Absolutely.
All right, so now, Ojie, come on, tell us about one of either the coolest thing you've seen or the coolest thing you've ever done on one of our Southside Critical Mass rides that leaves the first Friday of every month from April through November at 5:45 from Nichols Park. Come on, tell us about it.
Okay, not the coolest thing, because there's a lot of cool things you can see on Southside Critical Mass. So one of the things I want to talk about is we have this ride called the Wear Orange Ride. And I know you're going to get into that pretty soon. But on that ride, we typically go past a mural on 76 and Jeffrey. And there's an artist, and I don't want to mess his name up, it's Rahman Static.
Okay.
Yes.
And as you can see on my jersey here, Brenda, we passed this mural, and we mass up in front of the mural and take a picture. And on this mural is very significant because when we were trying to design this jersey, we were looking for some place on the south side to create a background for our jersey. And of course, the downtown skyline picture is all over everything.
Right.
But when we saw this mural This mural really spoke to us as far as who we are on the South Side.
Is that on this one here? Can you
Yes.
can you hand me that? Oh, keep talking.
There is Harold Washington on here. We do a Harold Washington ride where we ride through Hyde Park. We pass his home. There's Emmett Till on there, on this jersey. There's Emmett Till. We ride down 71st Street, which is also Emmett Till. We ride past his home, and we take pictures there. There's a lot going on in this mural. There's Obama and Michelle. We did a ride where we went past his home.
Okay.
Yeah. They led us through the barricades.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot in there. There's Black-owned business, and you can't see it on here, but the actual mural also has a bunch of young ladies jumping double dutch
Okay.
on the far side of the mural if you're ever
Yeah.
at 76 and Jeffrey. So everything that's in this mural speaks to who we are at Southside Critical Mass.
Awesome. And that leads me to another question, which I already know the answer to, but I'll let you answer. So one of you answer. What is your biggest ride of the year?
The biggest ride is the Wear Orange ride for gun violence awareness.
Wait, tell me about that. Can you talk to me about that?
That ride is always the first Friday in June.
Okay.
And that ride is to show support and bring awareness to gun violence in Chicago and across the country. It was named after Wear Orange because that was Hydea Pendleton's favorite color. And she was a young lady that was killed January 29th, 2013 in a park on the South Side. And she had just participated in President Obama's inauguration parade. And our families are tied because my nephew Jordan Davis was killed over loud music in Jacksonville. So his mom, my sister, and Hydea's mom worked together as mothers of the movement and have done other things. His mom, Lucy McBath, is a U.S. Congresswoman. So they've worked together, and our families are tied, and we wanted to support them and show love to them and bring awareness to this thing that is just an epidemic across Chicago.
It is. Call it what it is, an epidemic.
And this ride was one way of just showing support to the family. And we are now the official kickoff to Wear Orange weekend.
Okay.
So the series of events. So we go to the park. She has a park named in her honor as well, which is very beautiful. We go to that park, and we go to her. We go to a restaurant that is supported by her parents.
Yeah. I remember. I participated in that ride one year. I remember. Yeah.
Yes, and we get a lot of support. That's our largest ride, and we get a lot of.
How many people come out for that one? If you had to just estimate.
Our last one we had close about 100 people.
Okay. Now, on a typical month, about how many people turn out, on average? Just ballpark.
Surprisingly, we had 40
Okay.
on our first ride of the season. It was cold.
That's a good turn. I mean, just come on, think about it. You got 40 people of all different backgrounds riding through the streets of the South Side of Chicago, hollering, "Happy Friday! Happy Friday!" And I remember the very first time I participated in one of your rides. I was following Ojie, and I was like, "What's wrong with him?" Because I didn't have the context of having participated in the Critical Mass ride. I just saw them out in front of the building. I never went in the road with them, and it was contagious. And then next thing you know, I'm hollering, "Happy Friday! Happy Friday!" And I was having such a good time with this. So let me see, what else do we want? We talked about the Wear Orange. We talked about how this got started.
Our next ride.
Safety. I want to say
Safety,
again,
yes.
safety.
Yeah. How do those rides? Do you follow the rules of the road like normal?
So typically in a critical mass ride, you have some people out front that kind of keep an eye out on traffic, and you have somebody in the back of the ride, which is called a sweeper. The sweeper makes sure everybody is in the group, in the mass, and make sure we stay really, really tight so everybody could see us. So again, just making sure that everybody is kind of focused on the ride. And because it is a little longer, sometimes, traffic will inevitably
Yep.
take a pause and let us ride through
Okay.
the traffic.
So we've got a few seconds left. We can talk more about this because do you all do like the other ride doesn't take the whole street, or do you all stay on one side of the street?
So it depends.
It depends on the ride. Okay.
This depends on the street because sometimes it's safer to ride with that amount of people, but we tend to follow the rules of the road to the best of our ability.
All right. So now, before I do my closing, when is the next ride, and where can people get information about your rides?
Our next ride is May 3rd, and we meet at 55th and Kimbark at 5:45, rolling at 6:15. You can get information on Eventbrite, so look up Southside, one word, Critical Mass. And we're also on Facebook, Southside Critical Mass.
All right, thank you so much for coming out and talking about this really important topic with us this month.
Awesome.
Next month, we have Bill Gaston from the Major Taylor International Alliance. So we're excited to talk about what he's doing and what he's got coming up this summer. I think he's got a couple events. So thank you again, Major Taylor Trail community, for joining us. Thank you, Ojie. Thank you, Dannielle. Please show up to the Southside Critical Mass every first Friday, 5:45 at 55th and Kimbark, Nichols Park. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.